This is the Sports Porch, Black and Gold, with your hosts, the Technical Director, the Grand Schwabini, and Hockey Jesus. Come on, Pittsburgh. Let's show a little Steelers, Penguins, and Pirates love. The Sports Porch Black and Gold starts now. Yes, it does. The Sports Porch Black and Gold starts now all over the world. If you're watching us live on a Monday evening at 7:30 Eastern Time, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on X, and yes, we are on the Gram. And of course, I'm going to drop the show right after the show, the podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcasts. We would love for you to go over to YouTube right now if you're not already watching there and subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Sports Porch Podcast. We're finally over 100.
We did. I saw it. We were at 101 the other day.
We made it.
101.
Mhm.
Yep.
Triple digits.
Now we got to get to 1,000, guys. So share that page out there. If you love Pittsburgh sports, we've been doing this for 7 years, and we've loved every single, well, almost every single minute of it.
You hate the beginning.
Most of it.
You hate the pre-show. Let's face it, you do.
No, I actually don't hate the pre-show. I like the pre-show.
Yeah.
It's fun, but there are times when I'm like trying to get shit done, and you guys are saying this nasty stuff in the microphone. Yeah, we're gonna.
We were just singing.
It's gonna come back to haunt you.
Just singing old 80s songs.
I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you right now. And if you
anybody want to be a technical director out there, 1-800 Sports
technical
Porch.
director. Oh, okay. And of course, if you like internet radio, we do have an internet radio station at radiopgh.com. We've picked up a lot of listeners lately. It's actually gone up over like 2,000%, believe it or not. And you can listen live at that stream I just dropped in the comments. That is our internet radio PGH stream. So anyway, thanks for being here. What are we going to do? Well, there's a lot of stuff to talk about right now. And unfortunately, listen, guys, I made this comment last week, and Steve disagreed with me, and I'm going to continue.
And I was right.
I don't believe so at all. I'm going to continue.
The fans know.
What's that going on in the background?
The Steelers quarterback room is
he put up a dumpster fire.
A dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is still a dumpster fire. I'm sorry. Yes, they signed Mason Rudolph. Here we go. Chris Chott is already in here. He's watching on YouTube. Thanks, Chris.
What up, Chris?
Not just for Mason Rudolph. I heard Joe Flacco too. What a disgrace. They're effed.
They are effed, Chris.
Yeah, and
well,
and
I mean,
they're
only if you think a quarterback's important in the NFL.
Well, let's go over these potential. Obviously, we know that Mason Rudolph. There he is. He is now in the quarterback room officially. Russell Wilson is out in the ethos doing Russell Wilson things. Aaron Rodgers is in a sweat lodge deciding his future. And
no, he's not. He's not even thinking about football.
I'm not even going to talk about Skylar Thompson because that would be the absolute end of, of whatever. So, listen.
Well, he's the number 2 quarterback on the depth chart now, right?
Look, drop a comment, send us a tweet. One of you guys watching the Twitter page at SportsPorch1 is our Twitter handle. But like I said last week, the Steelers quarterback room is still a dumpster fire. Will it be Rudolph?
Well, you see, you're changing your tune already. Now it's just the quarterback room. Well, see, I would have agreed with you if you would have said just a quarterback. You were talking about their whole team last week, and that's where you went off the rails, and I had to chastise.
No. I'll go back and get the tape. I was talking about the quarterback room is a dumpster fire. That's what I was talking about.
I think Mark and I recall differently.
You basically said the whole team is a dumpster fire.
You guys, every time we do this, you guys go back and you listen to it, and I get some sort of text. It's like, okay, you were right. I know what I said. And
no, you don't.
All right, you want to know what?
No.
All right,
resist the urge.
Okay,
let's focus on this show.
I'll take it a step further. The team is a dumpster fire.
There you go.
You see, you did say it last week.
That's exactly what you
say
were
it this week. No, I'm gonna fulfill the prophecy. The team is a dumpster fire, in my opinion. And this is what I said 5 years ago when Roethlisberger was getting ready to retire. He wasn't getting ready when we all knew that the end was nigh. And I said, you're going to find out what kind of organization they are now, what kind of coach Tomlin is.
We did talk about that.
Yes. When they bring in a quarterback, we will find out because Tomlin had he had a plug and play guy who's going to be in the Hall of Fame.
And then they immediately went after small hands Ken.
He had a charmed life.
Right. Which before everybody goes crazy, I loved Kenny Pickett when that last year at Pitt, and I predicted they would draft him, not because I wanted them to draft him. I want to make that clear because I knew that they were in love with him just the same way I was in love with him for that last season at Pitt.
But for you, it was more the hair.
Well, yeah, and the small hands, but I knew that was going to be a Steelers move. Now, obviously, I don't know everything, but you can pick up vibe. No, not everything.
Okay,
like
that's for sure.
I'm about halfway there.
Okay,
all right. If I live to 100, I'll be 90% there. So, what I'm trying to get at here is that it's a vibe. It's a vibe. Okay. And the vibe right now is the vibe that all the fans, most of them, except the real Yinzer homers out there. Sorry, guys. I know you're out there, but that are like, we can make this work. We can make this work. You're not going to make this work. Okay. You do not have, listen, I actually applaud Mason Rudolph for having the balls to sign back with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, people say he got a raw deal here and all that. Not really. He got paid a hell of a lot of money to be a backup, and he did get himself into a playoff game, and he did have games where he showed off the talented arm he has, so I don't feel sorry for Mason Rudolph at all.
He's got opportunity here.
He does. He does. So my question to you guys and my question to you guys out there, so drop a comment if you want. Tweet us at the SportsPorch1. Would you roll with Mason Rudolph at this point? Would you do it? Let's let Grant Schwabini chime in. You're the GM.
Sure.
At this point right now, given the situation, we know Mason Rudolph wasn't the first choice, and I'm tired of hearing we let Justin Fields go. Look, he was never going to be great. Well, I don't care what anybody says.
My answer is yes and no.
Okay.
I love it. I love it.
That's perfect.
The answer is yes, because Aaron Rodgers clearly doesn't want to be here.
I agree.
If he did, he would be here. He's holding out hope that Minnesota wants to sign him.
Right.
So, so my feeling is if he ends up signing with the Steelers, it's not his first choice. And he's already a guy where you don't know how invested he is.
Right.
So I also sort of feel like at this point, if Russell Wilson was going to be back, he'd already be back as well.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's making a tour of Cleveland and the New York Giants.
Neither of whom gave him offers.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, my feeling is at this point, look, the best case scenario for the Steelers in my mind is if they've got a quarterback that they like outside of Cam Ward, because he's going to go number 1 or number 2. They're not going to be able to get him. But if they like Shedeur Sanders or if they like Jackson Dart, and I don't know that they do like either of them, but if they do, the best case scenario is those guys slip and fall and they trade up and get one.
Yeah.
That's honestly the best case scenario. I think outside of that, you just go with Mason Rudolph. And look, I mean, I'll tell you what, do I think you could go 10-7 and make the playoffs with Mason Rudolph? I do. I mean, he can play this Tomlin style. He's got a good arm. He's relatively protective of the ball. I always feel like he kind of got the short end of the stick here and never really had a chance to really develop and grow. Really, even the more I think about it, I even think he might do better than Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. Honestly,
right?
I mean, he might. Like I'll say this. I mean, the Mason Rudolph that finished off 2 years ago, the last few games, I think was just as good as, the best 3 games that Russell Wilson played this year.
I think you're right about that.
And here's the thing. If I'm wrong and Mason Rudolph fails, then you still win, because then you finally plummet into, that top 10 range where you can get a quarterback the next year.
Right.
So that seems to be the best course in my mind.
Right. Well, one thing that you said, if he plays well and they go 10-7, that's kind of like what we don't want to happen. We don't want them to go 10-7, squeak into the playoffs, lose another playoff game. So it's kind of like you have to hope that he lives up to his supposed Steelers number one draft, first round draft grade they had on him. But they picked him third in the third round anyway, which just shows you where management's head was there.
Well, but
so you have to hope they go like 12-5, like he, and then it's like, wow, okay, here he is, or it remains a dumpster fire.
Well, I think with DK Metcalf added to the offense, and I'm sure there'll be some more players added in the draft and maybe even in free agency. It's got to be higher. The goal's got to be higher. It's got to be to win at least a playoff game. And look, part of it's just the luck of the draw. Sometimes when you're 10-7, you get in and you get a team that's not really that hot. Maybe they won their division and they were like, also 10-7 or something like that. So yeah, they could win a playoff game. It's possible.
Okay. HJ, chime in on this.
So your real question is, should the Steelers roll with Mason Rudolph?
Right.
And the issue that the Steelers have is they have to, because he's the only real quarterback on their team. So right now they have to. Is there anybody out there they could get that would make me feel better than Mason Rudolph? Sure. I still think, as ridiculous as it sounds, Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson are better matches. And here's why I think they are. One, I think Russell Wilson is because he played the system. The games that he lost were against the toughest teams in the AFC.
This is true.
And now he has better receivers.
Well, and he's got a guy he's very familiar with.
And they got rid of your buddy Najee in the back, and they got a faster back in Kenneth Gainwell. So they got more speed back there. So
he does gain well.
I think that they would be better off just bringing back Russ and riding out Russ for a couple years. Here's the problem. The Steelers always get in their own way. And this is why we keep talking about this, because the Steelers are idiots when it comes to the quarterback position. Think about it. If they start Mason Rudolph this year, they drafted him as Ben's replacement and fucked around with him for 5 years and then let him go, and now he's back.
Yeah,
that makes absolutely no sense.
That's the dumpster fire I refer to.
This is the problem with the Steelers. This is what they do. And then last year they say they wanted to keep Justin Fields. Why didn't they just sign him and just say, we want you. What do you want to stay here? And just give it to him.
Right.
Instead, they're holding back all this money. They had the third most amount of money to spend in the cap space, and they only signed one guy out of that. That's ridiculous. I don't understand what they're doing with it. You know what they're doing with it? They're putting it in their pocket so they can give it to TJ Watt, and they can pay him his 35 or 40 million, whatever he wants, for the next 3 years after his contract's over this next year.
I think that's part of it.
They're basically showing their hand in that they would rather sign guys that have already been here, that are the face of the franchise, as opposed to making the real position, the quarterback position, the prominent position. Because I frankly think the reason they're not going back after Russ Wilson, I think Arthur Smith's, I think he got a little tear coming out of his eye, because Russ said, no, you have no idea what you're doing. I can run this offense better than you can. And then he's like, okay, he's out. And that's why they're not going after Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers would be 10 times worse than Russell Wilson. He wouldn't even say it. He would just go out there and do different things. Right, and then he would go and talk about it on Pat McAfee, and he would say what an idiot Arthur Smith is. So that's why they're not going after Aaron Rodgers, even though he is a much better talent.
Yeah, well
he does have an offer out to him.
Yeah, they have an offer out to him. But I think your point is that they're not.
Well, they did the same thing that they did with Justin Fields.
Right.
They gave him an offer that he won't take.
Yeah.
Unless he's absolutely desperate.
Yeah.
And that's not what you want from your quarterback position. You don't want a desperate quarterback coming back here. You either want a young, hungry quarterback who wants to prove himself, or you want somebody who knows you can play in the Arthur Smith system, and they don't have either of that. So you're left with Mason Rudolph, who it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous what they're doing with the quarterback position.
All right. Mr. Stiller fan is back on YouTube watching us.
Hey, Mr.
Fellas.
Stiller
What's up,
fan.
Mr. Stiller fan? I got a bunch of comments I got coming in here right now, so I want to get them on the screen. Chris Chada says, is it true that management didn't work on a QB of the future while Ben was QB because it made him mad? I mean, I think we answered that question.
Yeah, I mean, that's why they didn't play Mason Rudolph, because Ben was upset with it and he didn't show Mason how to play the quarterback position.
The one thing that I always try to do when I hear these kinds of reports is, and these reports are old from years ago.
Yeah, way old.
I take them all with a grain of salt because, one of the things that came out about Aaron Rodgers being up in the Jets is there were a couple people that said, look, he had a problem with Garrett Wilson and Garrett Wilson had a problem with him. But really in the locker room, he wasn't bad. That he was actually good in the locker room. And the other quarterback said he supported them. So I'm not so sure I completely believe everything that's said along those lines. Because if I'm Ben Roethlisberger, and of course I'm replaying a little history here and I'll do it quickly, and they draft Mason Rudolph, and at first I'm a little surprised. I'm still looking at that and saying, I've been here for 10 years already or 14 years already, and I am the guy. Maybe I'm taken aback because they didn't tell me they were looking to draft my replacement. But after that, it's business. Move on. We're going to win games. I'm the starter. So, just
and they proceeded to give him $30 million contracts after that. So it didn't really matter.
Mike Lawrence is back. What's up, Mike? Glad to have you back again. What's going on with the Steelers? There's so much BS online. Wilson is holding out. Pickens says he wants out unless. Do you guys have any real info? If not, that's okay. I'm tired of seeing all this BS on social media. He follows that up with, I believe Russ Wilson can run the offense better than Arthur Smith.
Well, the thing that I'll say about Pickens is he was one of the guys who didn't actually text DK Metcalf, welcome to the team.
He didn't? Of course not.
No. So basically Pickens is, the guy who we thought he was. He's not the guy that the counselor wanted last week who said, just give him your number. He's not going to give him his number.
Right.
He couldn't pay him enough money, probably. I bet Pickens would do it for $10 million.
Got a price.
Yeah, everybody's got a price.
Yeah.
Maybe if he gave him some T. Higgins money, he'd probably give it up.
Well, and again, this goes back a couple years where it's pretty easy with some people to look at their character and say they're not the guy. And once again, what have I been preaching? Pickens is not the guy. Harris wasn't the guy, not because of his character. I think Najee Harris has great character. He did nothing but show up for work and work really hard. He just didn't have that burst and all of the intangible skills and instincts. And he also had a pretty bad offensive line, and the team was a dumpster fire.
I think the reason that the second part of that question, the reason Wilson's holding out is he wants more money. He's looking to get more money. The offer the Steelers gave him, if they gave him one, is going to be peanuts. It's not going to be a lot of money, and frankly, that would be good for the Steelers if he came back with maybe let's say a 3-year deal at $10 million or $10 million a year, and only 15 of it was guaranteed.
So, Mike, when you say, do we have any real info? We've already stated this over and over. We're three guys, lifelong sports fans, lifelong friends, 35 years, watching each other's teams and having a great time doing it. And no, we're not insiders. We're not members of the press. We don't get in the locker room. We don't interview players. We'd like to. That would be a lot of fun if we could get that done. If somebody knows anybody, I'm
in the process of developing sources.
Okay, excellent. And but what we do is we call it like we see it. And a lot of times, there's a lot of healthy debate here and we really enjoy it. And the best part about this is we get to debate it with you, other, diehard Pittsburgh sports fans. And no opinion is worthless here.
Well, you didn't read Patch yet.
Oh, well, Pat off track is always. So Big Ben wouldn't let Rudolph play in his games. tale as old as claymation. Pat off track. Yes, we understand.
Once a year, Pat. Once a year.
Yeah, that's
right. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
But we do love that Pat watches all the time. Pat's been with us for 30 years. We love him to death.
Kind of.
Luke Morrell says, go with Mason and draft Dart or Howard. Here we go. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're doing well, too. I think Mike Lawrence, I'll put that comment up in a second. I just don't want them to draft a quarterback in the first round.
No, not this year.
I mean,
when he says Dart, he's thinking that's
Jackson Dart at the position they're drafting at would be a steal.
Yeah, he's thinking end of first round, which would be good if they could get him there. And then Howard, he's thinking second or fourth round.
Jackson Dart is classic.
Well, they lost their second round pick.
Jackson Dart is a classic. He's a classic. A classic pipe pick. Okay, he goes to the combine. Everybody starts watching tape, and he's got a great agent.
You know who else was a classic hype pick? Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so once in a while, a squirrel finds an acorn, a blind squirrel.
Well, it's been a while since there's been a Josh Allen. So maybe it's time for Jackson Dart.
I'd like to see a blind squirrel. I've never seen one.
I don't think a blind squirrel has ever. I don't think a blind squirrel has ever seen a blind squirrel. I love this, Mike Lawrence. Thanks, TD. I get it. You guys probably have some sources more than others. Love the show. Thank you, Mike. Really appreciate it. Chris Chata. We're getting a lot of comments today. This is a lot of fun. The old "It's Not My Job" QB story. Favre to Rodgers, Ben to Mason, Rodgers to Jordan Love. Luke Morrell says yes to what we just said. So. The
Steelers have no choice. They have who they're probably going to keep in Mason Rudolph, and that is a downgrade at the quarterback position. That's not good. The best thing that can happen from that is we're terrible and we go 6-11. That would be glorious, but I just don't. I think Mark's right. We end up middling in right there between 7 and 9, we're playing that 7. We're 7 and 7 at one time, and it's like if we win the next 2, we can make the playoffs. And everybody at this point's like, what's the point? They're not gonna do anything in the playoffs.
But in all honesty, look, I'm admitting. I mean, I don't think Mason Rudolph is a great quarterback, right? But I do think he is serviceable enough that he could lead a playoff season. He could get them to 10-7. He could get them to 9-8, and they sneak in. He could.
Yeah.
I don't think that's unrealistic, especially with adding DK Metcalf.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the other thing you have to hope for is that finally, after 3 years, they're thinking that the best thing to do is put Broderick Jones at left tackle, which is what they drafted.
Yeah, that's what Khan said. He was like, well, you can read between the lines, We got rid of Dan Moore Jr. and we have a left tackle that can play there.
Well, why in the hell didn't you do that before?
Because they had Dan Moore Jr.
I get it, and Tomlin's loyal to his veteran players,
except when they won $80 million.
Yeah, which is think about how these guys are getting paid now.
Well, the cap's going way up. That's what helps.
Yeah, but you have a mediocre year at best, and you yank $20 million a year from another team. I mean, shit.
That's the going, right?
Honest to God, is there an age limit on trying out for the NFL?
You're just in the wrong business, Chris.
I am in the wrong business.
You don't get paid $80 million to stock shows.
I mean, Milton Williams got $26 million a year. He's not a starter.
Somebody there gets paid $80 million.
You know what I mean?
Chris Chata, another follow up here. Would Steelers fans put up with the pouting they got? If they got Aaron, when Aaron's in a mood, it's so clear and apparent. It's almost funny.
You know who Aaron Rodgers reminds me of? I'm gonna draw a hockey parallel here. Eric Carlson.
Really?
Yeah. Superstar, good name, big name. He would come here and he would be like okay at times, and he would be terrible at times. Yeah. And you know what he would never get excited about things. He would just be like, yeah, we went out there and played the best game we could this week. Just didn't get it done. And then when he's really good, he would be like, yeah, we really had the offense clicking on all cylinders. And, that's the way we want to play the rest of the year. It's that's what you would get from Aaron Rodgers. He wouldn't have a pouty face because he's playing a game for, $35 million. He wants to play. He wants the money, but the reality is he's just not that good anymore. And on the Steelers, man, that offensive line would have to really step it up this year because he is not a mobile quarterback. And I go back to what the head coach said and the owner said, the future is mobile quarterback. Well, and they end up with Mason Rudolph. I just can't figure it out.
Now, Luke chimes in here. I still like Howard because of his size, like Ben, 6'4", 240. Listen, Mason Rudolph is 6'5", 235, something like that. I mean, the size is there. And again, I'm not advocating for Mason Rudolph, but when I said their quarterback room was a dumpster fire, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that they have no plan for the future still. Now, I do think you're seeing a little bit of the moving on here from the QB stuff. Oh, Pat, off track. Want to know how bad Rodgers is? Olivia Munn dumped him, then fished John Mulaney out of detox, and they're working on his second kid.
John Mulaney's really funny.
Yeah, and he's really messed up too, though. So like, think about it. If you went from like Aaron Rodgers to even more messed up, and you actually got him to be stable.
Yeah,
she couldn't get Aaron Rodgers to be stable.
Yeah. Well. I don't think that's why he would come to Pittsburgh if he would.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. I don't think Aaron Rodgers really wants to be in Pittsburgh.
No, I don't think so. I think it's just too much for him.
Surprises always happen, but I have a feeling we're rolling with Mason Rudolph unless you get a Russell back in here. The reason I would like Russ is for the same reason that you mentioned. First of all, he can run that offense. Second, that DK Metcalf connection, that's pretty,
I really wish I knew what was going on between Russell Wilson and the offensive coordinator, Mr. Smith.
I mean, do we know if anything is going on for real? I mean, it's been denied, you know what I mean? And of course they always put on a good face.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're telling me, here's the one thing, last thing I'm going to say about this, and then we'll move on to a different Steelers subject. The last thing I'm going to say about this is this. Arthur Smith, whether you like him or not, whether you like the offense that he put on the field last year or not, it is a professional football coach who understands the game. So you're telling me that he actually told Russell Wilson, who is a Hall of Fame quarterback and has had a very, very good career, that he couldn't audible? You're telling me he told him that?
It does sound strange.
That's ridiculous.
Why would he do that?
That is some bullshit reporting, in my opinion. And we have no sources for this, but I'm telling you that is some bullshit reporting because the mainstream, when you use the word mainstream media, everybody thinks that you're talking about like politics, but there's also a mainstream media in sports. And that's what you're up against every day. I mean, we have the mainstream media and sports on right now on ESPN. We're watching what is that?
I don't know. I think it's a bunch of guys bouncing the ball.
The Knicks and the Heat. So, and all they are is headlines and eyeballs now. That's what they want. And this is why, Mike was talking about, I'm tired of watching this stuff on social media. I can't tell you, you guys do it too. How many countless things do I click on because I'm like, what? And then I realize,
it's clickbait.
That's an if. That's an if.
Well, you have to read between the lines. And the problem with the Steelers, they just have no idea with what they're doing with the quarterback position. So we can talk about it for the next 3 months. They're still not going to know what they're doing with the quarterback position. And the bottom line is Aaron Rodgers will make a decision when he makes a decision. And if they've moved on from Russ Wilson, the Steelers ain't going to say nothing about that.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Pat, off track. Russ should come back. 2 great wide receivers. Not quite. He means Cincy's pair, but still scary. Yeah, well,
we didn't spend $250 million on 2 wide receivers either.
Yeah, we only spent $150 million on one. So
you can get AJ Brown and Devontae Smith for $100 million less.
Yeah. Right, seriously, and win a Super Bowl.
That's because there's
not if you had to sign him today.
But that's because since he's so stupid that they didn't sign him years ago.
That's true. That's true. Once again, Howie Roseman. Okay, so. What I'm going to say now is that, and I'm going to throw this at you, Grant Schwabini. Are we seeing with the with bringing in Kenny Gainwell and Darius Slay, both from the Eagles? Didn't they sign a defensive lineman recently?
No. I'm looking at I'm looking at the transactions. There's no defensive lineman.
Okay.
I think they did sign a defensive tackle today.
Yeah.
It's not on. It's not on the transaction.
Okay.
Sometimes it comes up like a day later.
Well, what I'm saying is this is what I think maybe what we're missing here.
Well, today they signed Scotty Miller and Ben Skronik.
Yeah. Today was the official signing days. Mike says, seems like a lot of sports media is nothing but clickbait, not you guys. Thanks, Mike. We'll never be clickbait. We're not going to do that. That
drives me crazy.
We won't do that. We want people to come back like you guys, to come back because we're having a good time.
Except with the quarterback position. It is driving us nuts.
It is driving.
It really
is. It's driving everybody crazy.
Yeah.
It's driving everybody crazy. So is this a little bit with the Gainwell and the Slay thing? I have a sneaking suspicion that the Steelers don't have a lot of draft picks this year. Okay. They don't have that second round pick now. Right. They don't have a fifth round or a sixth round in there.
I think sixth. Yeah.
I think they have a first, a third, a fourth, fifth, and a seventh. Something like that. I looked at it last week. I don't remember. But Luke says yes from the Patriots, the defensive tackle they signed today.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I thought I heard that. So anyway, is this a little bit of the Weidl effect? I have a sneaking suspicion that our first round pick this year is going to be a defensive tackle. And I know people are saying like, they're probably going to trade Pickens before that. No, they're not going to trade Pickens. No way. What they're hoping is that Metcalf settles his kid down somehow. Not necessarily takes him under his wing, but when you got a guy like Metcalf there who, first of all, can kick Pickens' ass, and second of all, is a proven receiver, maybe there's a little bit of an example there. When you bring a guy like Pickens in and you instantly anoint him the number one diva, a guy with his attitude becomes the number one diva. Well, now you got a guy where if you're Pickens, like you got two choices. You can be an asshole and get run out of town, or you can say, oh, wow, DK Metcalf, what can I learn from you? And I think that's what's going on here. And I think if he improves and his attitude changes and Metcalf helps him with that, you're going to see an extension. You're not going to see a trade, because the last thing they want to do is trade this guy, but they might have to. So I think they're going to draft a defensive tackle because that's what Andy Weidl does. All right. That's what he does. He's counseling them, bring in Slay, won a Super Bowl, great career. Bring in Gainwell, good backup guy, good locker room guy, won a Super Bowl with the former team. Let's draft a defensive tackle. We got the offensive line set. Not saying they're great, but they're all young. And there's a couple guys in there who have played well. They got another guy coming back who was injured most of last year. So they have the makings of that offensive line. Now they got to work on the defensive line. Is this the Andy Weidl effect, in your opinion?
I don't know, because to be honest, I'm not sure how much is Andy Weidl and how much is Omar Khan.
Right.
Well, I think Khan ends up with Tomlin making the decisions, but I mean the influence.
Let's assume that Khan is the money guy.
Yeah, I assume that influence.
Do you think?
That's what I think.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
I think so. I think Weidl has him and Tomlin make the picks.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think that Slay and Gainwell were just smart football moves. I think, the Steelers need a good corner, and Slay last year was still at the top of his game. And he's also a good locker room guy who took pride in mentoring Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell. And I think they probably think he can really help to get the most out of JP Jr. So I think that's why they signed him. And I think Kenny Gainwell played pretty well against the Steelers this past year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'll be interested to see
how they use
him, because I have always felt that Kenny Gainwell's pretty good. Now, granted, he also is playing behind the Eagles' offensive line,
right?
But you can see that he can make plays in space, right? He can make plays in space. So
he's a great third down back.
Yeah. I mean, I've always kind of wondered if maybe he could be a little more than that.
Right.
But he probably won't get the chance. It'll probably be a tandem, with Jalen Warren.
Yeah, it'll probably be 60-40 unless they draft somebody. Then the draftee will get like 10 or 15%.
Right. But I can certainly see games where, Gainwell's going to break some runs. And if Tomlin sort of goes with the hot hand that game, he could have a couple 100-yard games. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
So I think those were just two good football moves. Do I think that they'll continue to build the lines? Yes, I think that.
But they're not going to go to offensive line this year. There's no way.
No. They'll go. I think you're right. I think they'll go defensive tackle because they got a plan for life after Cam Hayward.
And they've been smart with the first round pick post Kenny Pickett.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
I am a little concerned, though. They did sign that defensive tackle. By the way, his name was Daniel Ikwale.
Yeah, Ikwale.
It's a good sign.
Right. Yeah,
it's a good sign.
Yeah,
This guy seems to do well.
He's, I don't know him. But the reality is they needed a body. Hopefully he can fill that space. But when they do that, that always makes me nervous. That, to me, says maybe they won't go defensive tackle now, and maybe they will look at the running back position when they really should not be looking at the running back position until the third round because it's a super deep draft for running backs.
Right.
You can get a damn good running back in the third round this year. So I'm hoping they don't, with the exception of the number one guy who's not going to make it there.
Right, Ashton Genty.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to go to Dallas, right? There's no way he's going to make it past Dallas.
Clear-cut number two guy. I forget his last name. His first name's like Omarion.
Yeah.
He's like a clear-cut number two guy, and I've seen a lot of mock drafts that have him going to the Steelers.
Right.
But I agree with you, though. I don't think they'll go running back in the first round after Najee Harris.
Yeah. And also, the Steelers have 6 picks this year. They don't have a second, but they have 1 pick in every other round.
Okay. Maybe that came up with some other move.
Well, yeah, because when they got DK Metcalf, they got the Seattle 6th round pick. They didn't have one before that. That's where you got it.
Okay. So I mean, at this point right now, I think I am not hearing any buzz about the Steelers in the draft looking at the defensive line at all. I'm not hearing any buzz about that at all. And I have a feeling they're going to surprise us because that is, to me, that is a glaring need. And I know we've got a lot of Cam Hayward lovers out there. I'm a Cam Hayward
I mean, he's
lover.
going to be on the roster the next 2 years.
That's exactly right. Cam Hayward has had pretty close to a Hall of Fame career, remains to be seen.
I don't think he's a Hall of Fame.
Probably on the borderline.
Probably not, but that's just to say that he's been exceptional.
He's been definitely Pro Bowl caliber most of his career.
More often than not. But after him and after Watt on the line, who do you got? After him and after Watt,
Peyton Wilson.
Who do you got? I'm not sold on Peyton Wilson. He's undersized.
Well, he's a linebacker.
And they got Highsmith. I mean, they got two other guys.
Like I said, Highsmith to me is an above average player who benefits greatly from TJ Watt.
Yeah, but you're right. They don't have any other defensive nose tackle, defensive tackle that's good.
I'm Andy. Keanu Benton, DeMarvin Leal. I mean, those guys are as good as Ikwale, as far as I know. Right. So if I'm Weidl and I'm Khan and I'm in that room and Khan is looking at Weidl and saying, where do you think our priority should be? I'm Weidl and I'm saying we got to get some ballers in here on defensive line like the Eagles did and Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. Now, are they going to get guys just like them? I don't know who's available. They're picking 21st. It's going to be hard, but I'm saying, look, your quarterback situation is a mess. You brought in a great wide receiver. You're going to say a prayer for who is your number 2 guy now. Your running back situation is suspect because Warren has shown flashes of being great, but he was coming in spelling Najee. Gainwell was always a second or third down back in Philly. So let's hope the line gels this year.
I've got a couple. I've got 4 predictions on who the Steelers are going to take at pick 21.
All right, let's hear it.
For it. Yep.
Okay, so one of them is in line with your thinking. Kenneth Grant, a defensive tackle out of Michigan.
Okay.
He's rated pretty highly. One is Will Johnson, cornerback out of Michigan. Now, from what I hear,
I'd be okay with them going cornerback.
Outside of Travis from Colorado.
Right, yeah.
What's his name? Travis what?
I don't remember his last name.
But he's the guy who plays wide receiver and corner. He's considered the best, but this guy, Will Johnson's considered the second best and by some the best corner. So that would be a good thing. But here's your interesting one. CBS Sports
Travis Hunter
and the Draft Network both have sliding to the Steelers at 21 Shedeur Sanders, quarterback, Colorado.
I think that's a disaster waiting to happen.
No, I'm telling you, I think if that happened, that would be huge.
Really? Well,
yes.
It would be a huge media bonanza.
He's, you know what, like he strikes me, Shedeur Sanders, as very similar to Lamar Jackson. Remember, Lamar Jackson went, with the last pick in the first round?
No, he was second round.
I think it was the last pick in the first round.
No, he was in the second. He was actually.
I don't remember. I thought he was a first round.
He
pick,
was,
but he was low in the first round.
Look it up. Let's be sure. Come on, look it up. You brought.
No, I'm more interested in the draft picks because I think Schwaber's on the.
I'm actually sure. I know that. So you can look it up and then feel like a fool.
Okay, fine.
But yeah, Shedeur Sanders, he's one of these guys that for whatever reason, he's not getting a lot of love because he's a little flashy, because he's got sort of that big athletic game. He really can throw the football really well. And I think sometimes like his running and his escapability sort of overdoes that.
I am a fool.
You are a fool.
Last pick in the first round.
Right.
Okay. That was close though.
I'm telling you, if he slides to them, that's their prayer. That's their prayer answered.
Yeah. Well, okay.
I believe that. All
right, well, I seriously doubt he's going to slide to them.
He might.
If anything, he's going to end up on Cleveland, and then Dion will be like, "My son will not play in Cleveland," and then we'll have like an Eli Manning situation all over again.
Where he goes will be probably the intrigue of the draft.
It will be. He's going to be the Aaron Rodgers who slides.
Okay, so let's, before we move on here, 41 minutes on the Steelers, always good stuff.
I'm tired of talking about the Steelers.
Yeah, I do. I really am. I do want to thank everybody who is watching us right now all over the world on Facebook, on YouTube, on X, and on Instagram, especially on X right now. We got a bunch of people on X watching us. Listen, hit that follow button on X. We're trying to grow our channel there. We're trying to tweet every day and put up polls and get a little bit more active because sports is on X. So we would really appreciate a follow there. And also hop on over to YouTube and follow us there. We're finally over 100 followers on YouTube. We got 101, maybe 102 after this one. We're trying to get 1,000 followers there real quick at what is it at the Sports Porch Podcast on YouTube. Anyway, every Monday night at 7:30 we're here, and I'm going to drop the podcast right after the show, so you can catch up with us anytime you want on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcasts. Now I want to tease this. The draft is when? The 24th?
Yeah, something like that. April 24th.
Yep. That would be Monday night.
No, it's not on a Monday.
April 24th. I was thinking March.
It's always a Thursday.
So Monday night, April 20 or whatever, Thursday night, April 24th. You can join us live online for a draft show. We can comment on all the picks, have a good time, maybe eat some food, maybe have some contests. Steve will be joining us from the Napa Valley.
We can get the good
Sonoma
slice of New York pizza because it'll be a Thursday night.
There you go. You
better call it at 3 p.m.
I will call the night before.
Maybe we can have a slice of New York delivery, and he could nice. Join the show. All right. He's a Jets fan, isn't he? A Jets fan?
I'm not sure if he's Jets or Giants, but
well, we had him on. We should know.
Yeah, well, he might be pretty busy on draft night.
Yeah,
I would think there's going to be a lot of pie flying.
A lot of pie flying out of the house.
Yeah,
a lot of pie everywhere.
We'll see.
So anyway, look for us on April 24th. We'll tease it on Twitter and YouTube and Facebook and everywhere else you can find us. We're going to have a live draft party here during the draft. I'll queue up some special effects and camera angles for that. So we're going to have a really good time. Let's move on.
Sure,
here.
That'll be ready a minute before the show.
It will.
I'll be drinking wine in Sonoma.
I know you guys.
But I'll still join you guys.
Look, Schwaber, you can come over a couple hours ahead of time and help me set up. I mean, it's always an option.
Actually, you got a nice deal going on because you're 3 hours behind. You don't have to wait till like midnight.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about that when I made the trip.
I have to make sure to take off for that next day as well. We have a very special guest already in the house with us right now. Hockey Jesus to my right in the studio, in our bunker studio. Hockey Jesus preaches on the YouTube podcast at the Sports Porch Podcast on YouTube. After almost every single Penguins game, he's got some playoff shows coming up in the future when the best time in sports happens for him. Hockey Jesus, anything to report other than the Penguins seem to be winning some games now?
Well, it's 4 in a row, and I can report that if they win the next 13 in a row, they will make the playoffs.
Sweet.
So that's great. That's great news. But here's the problem. They play other teams.
That's not going to happen.
That is a problem.
Probably not going to happen.
So they're probably not going to go 17-0 to finish the season and make a playoff spot. And the reason I say that, I know if you're a hockey fan, if you're a fair weather hockey fan especially, the mainstream media likes to push this narrative that the Penguins are only 6 points out of a playoff spot. And you're like, wow, they got a chance. You know, they're playing 13 more games. They'll easily get 6 points. What they don't say is it takes, like I keep saying on my podcast, and I say it here every Monday, it takes 92 to 95 points to make the playoffs. That's what it would take for the Pittsburgh Penguins to get the 92 points, 13 more wins. Okay. That's why I say they need that. I don't care how far behind they are the last spot. It doesn't matter. They have 13 games left. Most other teams have like 15 or 16 games left. So that not only do they have less games to play, they have to make up ground. That's nearly impossible to do at the end of the season. If you saw what I did on, I think it was Saturday afternoon, what I did was I looked at the standings in January, and I looked at the standings just recently on this past Friday, and like two teams switched out. I think it wasn't Carolina. I think it was Columbus Blue Jackets. Really about it. Minnesota dropped significantly because they lost their number one center, Kirill Kaprizov. So this is what happens this time of year. The great thing that we have going on are two things. Sydney's chasing a Wayne Gretzky record of, and I call it it's a made up record because nobody really keeps stats for, a point per game means something. It's kind of a status symbol, but it's not a real stat. Like I have 3 Stanley Cups. That's real. Like I have a point per game average for 20 years in a row. Well, that's very impressive, but to me, it's a made up statistic. Anyway, they keep these statistics anyway. And right now, Crosby and Wayne Gretzky are tied at 19. If Sidney gets, I think, let me see. I was looking at it just now. If Crosby gets 9 more points, he's made it. So he only needs 9 more points in 13 games. And actually, if he got injured, he would still make it because he has 73 points and he's only played 67 games.
Okay.
So if he got injured and he was out the rest of the season, he would still get the record. That's why I say it's kind of made up. But that's fun to watch. But the real fun thing to watch is Ovi going for Gretzky's other record, the important one, the goals scored, total goals scored. He needs, I think it's 8 to win, 7 to tie.
Yep.
Yeah, so he's getting there. He actually scored a really nice goal the other night, and the night before that, he got an empty netter. So he's getting them in however he can. If I was him, I know there's this kind of thing that says, oh, it would be great if he like tied him, and then going into next season, it would be something to talk about all off season. If I was Ovi, I'd be like, screw that. I'm getting it this year because you don't know what's going to happen next year. I mean, just ask Roberto Clemente, anything can happen. So you want to get that record while the iron's still hot. That would give him 40 goals for the season, which would be equally impressive in my opinion. So I love the Ovi race. I think it's great. I actually believe the Washington Capitals are for real. I can't believe I'm saying that. Everybody thinks they may be a pretender, but with a goal differential of plus 69, you're doing something right. I think they got a really good team. The team that's also impressing me down the stretch is Ottawa Senators. They got such great young talent. They have for a while, and now they're putting it all together. They just seem like they won't be denied. That's Stützle. I really like him. I think he's a good talent. And of course, they got Brady Tkachuk, and he kind of brings it all together. He brings the attitude. So lots of really good hockey going on right now. I watched Colorado and Dallas battle it out yesterday afternoon. The West is really kind of wide open still. But in the wild card race in the East right now, the Rangers own the last spot. But Montreal's only 1 point behind them, and they have 2 games on hand. Columbus 2 points behind them, and they have 2 games on hand. And Detroit's just behind the Rangers too at 70 points. I think if you have 70 points now, you have a chance. But the problem is all those teams that I just talked about, Canadians, Blue Jackets, and Red Wings, are all minus teams in goal differential. Columbus has been playing the best, but I just don't think they're talented enough. I think all that momentum they got from Johnny Gaudreau and that whole situation, I think it's kind of spent at this point. And they got to rely on some talent. And I just don't think they're going to, I don't know. They might make it. I think that's what I'm watching. I'm watching the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think maybe the Red Wings and the Rangers. I think those 3 teams are going to be battling out for that last spot. I feel that Ottawa is going to make it. They got 77 points. I think they're definitely going to be making it. And barring
Claude Giroux's last hurrah,
might be
his last shot.
Yeah. So that's the way I feel about hockey. The 2 guys that you want to keep an eye on if you are watching the Penguins are the 2 Connors. Connor Dewar and Connor Timmins. They both bring kind of an edge to their game. They need contracts next year, so they're going to be playing pretty hard for the last 12, 13 games that they'll be playing.
Chris Chada has a question real quick. Can you predict what the Pens will look like next year, similar to this year or a total makeover?
No, I think you'll see a significantly different team, Chris. They're already a different team with all the trades they made, with Pettersson gone and Bunning gone. I think you'll see some of these other guys come around, and I think you'll see some of these other guys come up from Wilkes-Barre, McGroarty. Like I said, I think Pickering's going to be a mainstay for them on the defensive side, and I'm not really sure who else is going to make it up, but we'll know in the preseason. And the thing to really watch out for is how many guys come up, because we all know Sullivan doesn't like to play the young guys. And if they go out and get some veteran guys in the offseason, then it's going to be a disaster for the Penguins next year. If they kind of just let people go away, like Nieto, I think he's in the last year of his contract. I think Achari has 1 more year. And of course, like I keep saying, they have to pay Hayes for 2 more years, which is terrible, but we're stuck with
any
this
chance
contract.
Malkin retires?
That's a really good question, Mark. No, I don't think so. I think he's gonna. I think Gino's gonna play the retirement road next year. Mm-hmm. He's gonna play. My last year. Everybody's gonna want to be at the last game. Blah blah blah. That will be the nostalgia trip for next year. It'll be saying goodbye to Gino. Okay. And really, we should have said goodbye to him this year because he's not been good.
All right. That was Hockey Jesus, who preaches on the podcast, on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your freaking podcasts, the Sports Porch. If you're watching us on Twitter, thank you very much, or on X. I still can't get used to calling it X because I feel like it's almost like a porn site. You know what I mean? Anyway.
No, I don't know what you mean.
No, what do you mean?
If you're watching us on X,
that would be triple X.
Smash that follow button. Smash that follow button. We have like 26 followers on X. We need to get it up. Yeah, hit the follow button.
Smash it. Smash it.
Smash. And hop on over to YouTube.
Porn and smashing.
At the Sports Porch Podcast.
Hey, we
YouTube.
forgot the Trader Joe segment. What happened?
We're not doing the Trader Joe segment this week because I have nothing that is worthy.
Were you off for the week?
No,
something?
I was working very, very hard.
Did Trader Joe's run out of good snacks?
So you were there.
Tired.
So you were there every day.
Yes.
And brought nothing home.
I have plenty of stuff at home. It's just all stuff we've already eaten. You guys are spoiled. Let me tell you.
Do you ever think about the show?
Well, I mean,
it
is a segment, and you preach consistency.
I know, right. I know. Actually, maybe I should say the real reason is that the chef is not available. The chef,
Lauren is getting a facial.
Lauren is getting a facial.
And she's not available. I said she is the show's chef.
Yeah. She does a damn good job.
Yeah, she does a heck of a job.
Yeah. Thank you. So, it's not that bad. All right. Let's move on to something real quick here. I want to bring up, this is Bucco's Talk.
Oh God. Yeah. I got it. You made me pull this up.
Yeah. We're not skipping it,
but you're not going to, you're not going to have to do anything. I did everything for you while you were going off. You were going off on hockey. I made it really
good.
Easy.
Can I close this? Cause just looking at their faces and their names makes me want to like her a little.
Well, here's one thing I think that we really have to try to, Klein is overtired. Klein is overtired. Thank you, Pat. You're on track right away. We're finally on track. Anyway, here's one thing I think we have to take into account. Pittsburgh is a football town first, and then everybody else. And everybody who's a Penguins fan would love to say it's a hockey town, but in all honesty, the Penguins have had a really good run. And when the Penguins have good runs,
the best run ever.
Right. And so they fill up PPG Paints or the Igloo when they played there.
Not anymore.
But when the Penguins don't have a good run, right, it drops precipitously. And we all know the story with
the crowd's better, actually.
Define
I'm not saying they're not. I mean, the crowd.
They go from 18,000 to 14,000.
Noticeably.
Spell precipitously.
PRECIPOUN.
Jesus Christ!
You can't spell.
I can't spell when he's trying to spell.
Not everybody can spell.
You try to count when I'm saying numbers. This is crazy. Anyway,
the show's off the rails.
It is off the rails as always, but we enjoy it so much.
What Bucco's talk does to you.
Once you start talking about the Pirates, everybody loses their mind.
All right. If I could go back to making my original point, what I was trying to say is there are a large contingent of people who are diehard Pirates fans, and they are suffering. And I believe it is our duty as sports fans in general
to kill them,
to suffer right along with them. No
mercy killing.
Oh my God, no!
That's the only way it's going to get better for them. You realize
you're talking about the Pirates. You're talking about the
fans who want to continue being Pirates fans.
No, I think.
I mean, they're the real fans, honestly. Like after 35 years of this crap.
Well, they've been fans since the 70s, since the 80s, since the 90s.
If you're a Pittsburgh Pirates fan now, good for you, because you're a real fan.
And I remember a time, as I know the Grand Schwabini does, when our good friend Hockey Jesus here he was more like Pirates Jesus. Remember that in the 90s? And that run, man, he was all over it.
They were good back then.
Baseball is fun to watch when you have an owner that spends enough money to put talent on the field.
Right. So we haven't really covered them the way I think that our fans deserve, the people that are Pirates fans. And I think that we need to suffer along with them, to feel their pain, which we have felt. And we need to at least follow them a little more. And when baseball season comes around, it's not going to be that hard. I mean, there are things to talk about. You do have Paul Skeens. You do have a guy in O'Neill Cruz who hopefully shows his talent this year, and that's going to be part of the segment we do here. You do have a guy in Joey Bart who came back, who was a former first-round pick for the Giants, who showed some promise last year. And then, of course, you have the flubs like Henry Davis. Does he even belong on a baseball field?
He had a grand slam the other day.
Okay, so, I think there's some things worth talking about. But I don't want to go into the details
against the Orioles
of that. Right. What I want to do is I want to take a cue from our Philadelphia show, that if you're a Phillies fan or you like anything Philadelphia sports related, or you just like me and the Grand Schwabini, at 6 p.m. Eastern time, we do our show for the other side of the state, Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Sports Porch. And we are hoping to branch out into other cities later on down the line. So we're going to do a buy or sell Bucco's talk. Buy or sell Bucco's talk.
This sounds scary.
Now Oh, we're starting to get some interest. Okay.
Sell.
All right.
Sell the team.
Sell the team. That was easy.
Yeah. That was my first question. Okay. Buccos buy or sell. O'Neal Cruz will have more than 175 strikeouts this year.
How many did he have last year?
181.
Less or more?
More than 175.
I'm selling that.
So you think he's going to have less?
I think he's going to have less.
Okay.
I think he's going to mature. He's
agree.
not playing this. He's not playing the shortstop position. He can hang out in center field and just be fine out there. He can focus on not striking out.
I agree.
You agree?
Mhm.
So you're both buying that.
I
Yeah,
am.
going to buy it.
Oh, no. You mean less. You're selling that. I said he will have more than 175.
Yeah, so we're
So
selling
you're
that because we think they'll have
Selling
less,
it. Yes, right.
Selling that.
Mhm.
We're not buying it.
Yeah.
We're not buying it. He's not
Mhm.
going to have more.
I am actually going to sell that as well. I think he's had a couple years under his belt, and if he doesn't, then there's going to be an issue. He did have his wins above replacement was 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
That's not too shabby.
He's a good hitter.
Yeah. Okay, so what is your comment? Buccos buy or sell. Cruz will have more than 175 Ks this year, more or less. Buccos buy or sell. Skeens will win more than 15 games.
More than 15?
That's a tough one. I
Mm.
mean,
On the Pirates.
if he was playing for the Dodgers, he might have 17 or 18. It's hard to get 20 wins in baseball nowadays with the way that
It is. You're
run the
absolutely
staff.
right.
So 15 to me is like pretty close to the new 20.
I'm selling it.
So you're saying no, he will not have more than 15
No.
games?
Yeah,
I just don't see it.
I guess I have to sell.
On the Pirates,
I have to sell just because it's the Pirates.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
he's capable, but with an average team or above,
Yeah.
he would go over.
Now, how crazy will it be?
that would be like 25% of their wins.
Although I will say this, one time,
They probably win.
one
7
time,
games.
Steve Carlton won a Cy Young and won 27 games when the team won like 60.
Yeah, well, that's why he's a Hall of Famer.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm gonna buy that. I think he's
You
gonna
think?
end up.
Wow.
Well,
And he'll win the Cy Young for sure.
I think what's going to happen is he is going to be the only guy that they really play for. I think they'll get up for those games. Looking at last year's stats, he was 11-3 with a 196 ERA and 170 Ks.
Yeah, and
And he
he'll
only
pitch in like what, 10 more games.
And yeah, you
Mhm.
add 10 more games in there, you might even get 35 starts, if he, barring any sort of injury or setback.
You might be right.
So it's very, very possible.
Yeah, you might be right about that.
Very, very possible. Okay, buy or sell. Skeens will win more than 15 games. Mike Lawrence says Skeens will win more than 15, maybe only 16.
Mm.
Okay, buy or sell. Brian Reynolds will hit less than 25 home runs.
Buy.
Yeah, I'm buying that one all day long.
Mhm.
Let's see what he hit last year.
He started off on fire.
Might
and
have
then
hit
he
like
just
27
died.
or something.
Yeah.
Money.
Last year, 24.
Yeah, no, he's
That's
not.
a pretty good
Yeah.
buy. That's a pretty good buy or sell question when I had no idea how many home runs he
Yeah.
hit last
He
year.
knew he was
Yeah,
around
we're buying. We think it's a 18 to 24 year.
Okay.
20 max.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm selling that. I think this is the year Reynolds says I gotta do this.
He's never said that before, huh?
No.
He was just like, I'm in the major leagues. I can't wait till 2025 when I'm going to really try.
Yeah. I think, yeah.
Because the technical director
Right.
has faith in me.
I'm just telling you right now. No, I'm buying it. Or I'm selling it. I think he's going to hit 26 or 27. This could be the year he hits 30. I think
Wow.
he's coming into his own here.
You really believe in
I
him?
mean, he should be on the upswing. You're right about that. I just don't see it. I don't see the power.
Okay, I'm going to put this one up, and then I have one more. Buy or sell? The Buccos will win more than 72 games.
72.
Which means what? 162 minus 72.
90.
So they're going to get, you say 72
I
and
think
90.
they won 76 games last year,
Right.
something like that.
Right.
I'm going to do whatever it takes to go above that number. I think they'll win more than 72 this year. Just because they'll have Skeens all year.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they'll go above it, not by much.
I'm not saying 80.
Yeah, I mean, this is
I'm not crazy here.
This is like a 73 to 77 is what I'm projecting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 75 plus or minus 3.
Mm-hmm.
I know this is funny.
Go ahead.
Given the fact that I said, Cruz is going to have a better year, Reynolds is going to have a better year, and I think Skeens is going to win more than 15 games.
They're still going to lose.
I think I'm selling this. I think they're going to lose more than 72.
I guess I'm buying then.
Yeah,
that'd be a pretty big bad season.
I'm ready for a bet after that segment.
One more question. This is an easy one. One more buy or sell. Suwinski will have a much better year than last year.
Will he even be in the majors?
Yeah.
He will be in the majors.
Yeah. He's having a pretty decent spring.
He's going to be a platoon player.
What was his batting average?
Like 177.
Yeah, it was below 200, right? That was your prediction.
So it has to be better, unless he's like actually one of the worst baseball players of all time. It would have to be better.
I can tell you right now.
It would have to be better. You're right, because he won't be in a league if that's the case.
Last year,
the real question would be: buy or sell? Will Jack Suwinski still be a Major League Baseball player by the end of the year?
All right. Last year, he had 247 at bats, 9 home runs, 45 hits, batted 182. So I'm a much better year. I'm not by much better. What I'm saying is 220. That's 40 points higher.
Here's my answer: sell.
Okay.
I don't think he'll hit 220. I think he'll be lower than that. He'll be between 200 and 219.
Yep, he's selling too.
I'm buying it. I think he has a much better year because this is it for him.
Yeah, that's why. This is it for him.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jack.
He's got a hell of a home run swing if he could just put it together.
He does actually have potential. It's kind of a shame he hasn't put it together.
That's what I'm saying. Please, if you're watching us on Twitter right now, hit that follow button. Follow us on Twitter. We're doing daily Twitter updates.
You mean
polls, X, whatever the hell it's called anymore. I know, I'm getting old. And we would love it if you would hop on over to YouTube and subscribe to us at the Sports Porch Podcast. Listen, every week after our shows, we put out shorts. We put out videos. We put out reels on our TikTok, on TikTok, the Sports Porch. Shorts on YouTube, and we try to fill the week up with fun moments from the show. We appreciate all the support. We thank you for being there. And listen, grab the podcast if you need to catch up with us while you're in the car on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your friggin' podcasts.
No commercials.
This is Mark's favorite part of this particular show because he gets to solo explain what this really means. And this is called What We Are Watching. And what does that mean, Schwaber?
Well, it means exactly what it says it means. It means we're going to tell you what we're watching. But we're going to tell you more than that. We're going to tell you what you should watch and what you shouldn't watch. And we're going to save you time.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to save you aggravation.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to save you disdain. We're going to save you from the anger of not knowing what to watch and surfing countless hours looking for that program that's going to be good. And then you start it and you halfway through that first episode, why did I do this? Well, no more. Mm-hmm. We're here for you. We're here to help. And it's a joy for us. It's a joy for us to bring light to your world. With that, let's begin.
All right. The only qualifications are you have to have finished the season that you're watching. It doesn't have to be the entire series. So if it has 10 seasons and you just finished watching season 5, you can give a review. Or if it's a one show thing like a documentary or a movie, you can't walk out or stop watching it and then say it sucked. You got to suffer. You got to suffer. Mm-hmm. So this week on What We Are Watching, we will go with the Grand Schwabini first.
All right.
Grand Schwabini has completed season 1, I understand, of
Surface on Apple TV Plus. Steve, have you seen it yet?
I have not, and I've been watching Apple TV Plus.
Yeah, season 2 just recently dropped in February. Klein has actually finished season 2. I wasn't aware that he had watched. Season 1. I really enjoyed it.
What's it about?
A lot of twists and turns. The general gist of it is that lady that you saw. She wakes up in a hospital bed, and she then learns that she had thrown herself off a ferry to commit suicide. And because
but she doesn't know that she did that
because of brain damage of some sort, or memory damage, I should say. She has no memory.
Trauma.
So she
suppressed the trauma.
So she's got a husband who,
congratulations,
she barely knows, right?
Doesn't know at all,
right? And she has to go home to a house that she's can't remember anything about.
Nope.
And she has to try to put together the pieces of what was going on in her life. And there was a lot of things that weren't going well.
Memory is a crazy thing. Like she knows how to brush her teeth. She knows how to get dressed. She can talk clearly,
right?
But yet she has no memory of her background at all.
Right.
She still remembers how to have sex too.
Right.
Oh, yeah. So,
and
that would be important for you.
And it is really good. It's really good. There's a lot of twists and turns. There's a lot of stuff that you don't see coming.
Oh, so is it like action packed?
It's a little different. See, it would be under the category of thriller, but I would say that it's sort of a slow thriller.
Yeah. But
what can you give away her profession without giving anything away?
Housewife.
So
she was just a plain old Jane housewife.
Well, not really. Her husband is kind of a rich tech guy, finance guy, fintech in San Francisco. So, but
lots of good pictures of the Golden Gate.
That's about
She's you could say this without giving much away. She has helped him have success.
Okay, all right.
Yes. And what happens in season 2? I actually watched it when it first came out.
Did you?
I don't know if
it was like 2 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know if I reviewed it back then or not. I may have.
I don't recall.
Yeah, but season 2 becomes
it's more of she's trying to figure out her life.
Yeah, season 1 tends to at times get a little slow because you're kind of like, all right.
I don't mind that as long as it keeps you engaged.
You're
still
engaged.
Compelling. But by the end of season 1, you're kind of like, I hope season 2 takes us somewhere. And season 2, it does. Season 2, it does. So yeah, it's well worth it. Surface on Apple TV, the Grand Schwabini's contribution this week. And I want to remind everybody, if we watch something we don't like it, we're going to tell you. So it's not just all about stuff we like.
Nope.
But that doesn't happen every week.
No, sir.
HJ, you have completed, is this a documentary or?
It's a nature documentary.
Is it multiple episodes?
It is one episode, 48 minutes long.
Okay. The Year Earth Changed.
Yeah, this is on Apple TV Plus also.
Interesting.
It actually has been out for a long time. It was out in 2021.
Yep.
And this is basically your COVID movie, right?
Yep.
This is essentially scientists, when COVID hit, they studied animal behavior during COVID because they're like, well, nobody's doing anything. There's no airplanes. There's no boats. There's no people. What are the animals doing during this time? So scientists actually, they studied different species, like you saw the penguins there. And I think that was in New Zealand. They studied these deer in, I think it was in somewhere in Asia. These deer would come to these shrines, and they realized they could get these crackers from tourists if they would like bow like this, and then the other person would bow, and then they would give them a cracker. Well, there were no people around anymore, so they came and were like looking for food, and they had to find their own food. So they basically the way they brought it about was that these deer found the land where they grazed before this all happened, and they just started eating there again.
Maybe the problem
they literally were like walking down Main Street to get to this place too. It was wild.
Maybe the problem was the mask mandates, and the deer had to wear masks in order to go into town.
There was no deer mask mandate. At this time.
Okay. All right.
And there were actually some other things with some whales, and there was There were other.
Did the whales wear masks?
There was no wearing of masks anywhere because it was like not about humans. It was all about nature.
I have to be honest. I don't think this one's for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so you have to like nature. Like the cinematography is great.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And you have to like science. If you don't like those two things, don't waste your 48 minutes. Yeah. But if you like those two things, you'll really like this because it comes up with some things you're like, wow, that actually happened. That's pretty impressive.
David Attenborough is classic too. He's absolutely classic.
Yeah, BBC. Yeah, he's got a great voice.
Yeah. Well, you know his voice.
I don't think so.
Oh my
God. If you heard it, you would
know. I know it. Yeah, it does everything probably.
TD, did you ever finish The Last Kingdom? Did you like it? Mike Lawrence, I finished The Last Kingdom. I absolutely loved it. And then I went on and I watched the movie Seven Kings Must Die, which was basically the finale of The Last Kingdom, and it was fantastic. So I think I remember you saying that you had watched it, but if you haven't, watch the whole thing. It's really good. It's really good. HJ, The Year the Earth Changed on Apple TV.
Not for everybody.
Not for everybody. I have completed the first season, not a documentary.
Which is really wild.
Yeah, which is really wild. Yeah. Although I do have a couple queued up that we'll go over later on that, down the line. Landman.
I've seen, trailers of this. It kind of looks interesting. How is it?
Wait, what's this on?
Paramount Plus.
Oh, that's why I don't know it.
Yeah. I got to tell you, and Mike says, great. I have watched it. Awesome, Mike. I got to tell you, it's tough because it's a good show. It's basically about the Patch, which is the Permian Basin in Texas, where the majority of the oil from the United States comes from.
Right.
Yeah, the Permian Basin.
Oil, Texas. Yeah. That's all you had to say.
Billy Bob Thornton plays...
That's who that guy was.
Somebody who they actually call a landman. Basically, John Hamm. Oh,
I like John Hamm.
Mad Men. He plays a billionaire who invests in land down there, and
doesn't look like a billionaire.
He plays a billionaire pretty well, actually.
Okay. Does he wear a cowboy hat?
No, he does not.
I bet he wears suspenders.
He does not. He's always dressed really well. Right. Anyway, let me get through this here. Yes.
I need visuals.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you some visuals.
Okay, let's go.
So John Hamm plays a billionaire who runs an oil exploration company and a drilling company. What you don't realize is that these guys, a lot of these land areas, they're not just owned by Chevron or Gulf or whatever. You've got these other little companies like Jerry Jones is an oil man.
Sure.
And they own the land, and then there's leases on the land, and then you have crews that build the wells and manage the wells. And the landman is the general manager of the company who oversees the exploration. He oversees the building of the wells, the exploratory wells, and all that. He gets very well paid. Billy Bob Thornton plays a landman. He is John Hamm's landman, so he's got to manage the crews down there, and it's a 24/7 job. It's a dangerous job. You've got backstabbing by other oil companies. You've got the cartels that run drugs through there. So there's
you got women.
This angle, and then of course you have Ali Larder, who is, as far as I'm concerned, Ali Larder, whatever. Yeah. Ali Larder, who plays her part beautifully, but it's Tyler Sheridan wrote it, and he did Yellowstone.
Right? He's the Yellowstone.
And so basically, anything Tyler Sheridan does, it's like every woman is the hottest woman on the planet.
Smart guy.
So it's filled with beautiful women. And that's easy because it's kind of like Texas. So
it's easy on the eyes for you.
Let me tell you something. Ali Larder, something else.
And she doesn't strike me as somebody to be out there like getting the oil out of the ground.
Well, the dynamic is this. She is his ex-wife. She married a billionaire. Now she's breaking up to come back to him. He had a daughter with her who's basically super hot.
Sounds complicated.
She's on spring break. Now these landmen, they don't buy property and live in the boom towns. They rent nice houses down there. So their office is in the house with the attorney and all that. Of
course.
And so Ali Larder shows up, his daughter shows up, and all they do is they like do yoga in bikinis in front of this like 70-year-old attorney who's like, this is really disrupting my work. So there's some enjoyable moments, and then his son gets involved and this and that. So I
is it a business movie?
It is. No, it's a life movie. It's not
for billionaires.
It's a series.
You've talked.
No,
about,
I'm serious. Like I don't have a sense for who am I going to like? Who's the mean guy?
You've been talking about this for 10 minutes, and we have no idea what it's about.
This happens every week. So
who's the mean guy?
It's about Billy Bob Thornton's job and how he has to manage all of the problems associated with the Permian Basin and drilling. You've got to manage the crews that are at each other's throats. You've got to manage the cartels because you're on their territory. Like in one episode, the cartels actually steal one of their company jets to try to move drugs and then crash it.
So the drugs involved.
You've got to
Marked in on drugs.
The billionaire land deals, and all the while he's doing that, which is very tough. His son decides he wants to become an oil guy and work on the derricks, and then his ex-wife shows up, and his daughter's there, and his daughter.
So you had handled it. You had handled it. You'd done well, and then you went into over explanation.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't think this is for me.
It was just about managing all the things that a landman has to manage, the cartels, the workers, and then you started talking about just nonsense.
I don't think this is for me. I don't think I'll be watching it.
I've had enough.
I might be watching it. I might.
It does have drugs in it. You would like it.
Something though, I'm just sort of like, I guess I feel like I haven't seen Yellowstone.
Me neither.
And I'm like, I almost feel like it's like too late for me to jump in at this point.
Might be the right time.
I'm telling you right now, it's worth a watch. All right, and as we rewind the exit music, I want to remind everybody and thank everybody if you're watching us live on Facebook, YouTube, X, and Instagram. We are live all over the world every single Monday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Catch us on YouTube. Please jump over to YouTube right now. Subscribe to The Sports Porch at The Sports Porch Podcast. You can hit our Twitter page if you're following Twitter. If you're watching us there, smash that follow button and follow us there. We're going to put out our reels, our shorts, and everything on TikTok throughout the week. And you can always catch the podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your freaking podcasts. Hey, congratulations to Bobby Moe, Robert Morris going to the dance, March Madness. We hope you do well.
And don't forget to watch that Ali Larder yoga scene.
Oh, it's so beautiful. For the Grand Schwabini, for Hockey Jesus, I'm your technical director. I am out. We'll see you next week. Jablonsk.
Jablonsk.